Hello and welcome back once again to Movie Reviews. After watching Epic for the second time today, so I could finish that review finally, I had some free time, so I also went and saw The Lone Ranger. Start out by saying I did kind of grow up with The Lone Ranger, but it wasn't one of my favorite things growing up, so as far as comparing this to an older version, I can't really do because I honestly barely remember the Lone Ranger. I know the character of the Lone Ranger, I know the character of Tonto, what the whole backstory was. Honestly, until I started watching this film, I'd kind of forgotten. So basically, it starts out with this little kid who's at a carnival or something, and he goes into this prehistoric wax museum type of thing. And he goes up to this display of a Native American in his natural habitat, and it turns out that the wax mannequin is actually real, and it's Tonto, who's played by Johnny Depp in old man makeup. And the little boy, for some reason, is dressed up as the Lone Ranger. And that's kind of what snaps Tonto out of, standing still in his wax dummy phase. He sees the Lone Ranger, and he's like, "Kimosabe?" And the little kid's like, "Whoa, you're real." And he pulls the mask off, and he's like, "Never take your mask off." And then he's like, "Who do you think I am?" And then he tells the boy that he's Tonto, and the real Tonto from Tonto and the Lone Ranger, because they're famous. The little boy says, "Tell me a story to prove that you're really Tonto." And he starts telling him about how they robbed this bank. And the little boy goes, "Well, I thought Tonto and the Lone Ranger were good guys. Why would they rob a bank?" So then he goes into the whole backstory of how they met and what led up to the bank robbery and so on and so forth. The Lone Ranger, I'm blanking out on his name for some reason. He's on a train coming to whatever old west town that he's going to. He's fresh out of law school. He's from a proper, like New York type of city where everyone dresses nice and is real proper. And he's going out west to basically the old west because that's where his brother and family are. So now that he's done with college, he's going to go back out there and practice law because he's a lawyer. So he gets out there and he finds out that something happens on the train. It's a train robbery, the guys are trying to break a prisoner out of the jail car because the train that he's on is also transporting prisoners to the town for trial. And one of them is Butch Cavendish, I think is his name. Yeah. So the Butch's gang is hopping on the train and they're going to break him out. And the lawyer, I'm going to call him that until he becomes the Lone Ranger, he goes and starts to investigate type of thing. And you find out that Butch is locked up with Tonto. Why Tonto was in jail, it's not really clear. Some said because he was Indian, which there's this on-again, off-again heat with the Indians. They're kind of at peace. They have a treaty, but at the same time, things are shaky. So he's on the train too, and he basically let himself get captured because it turns out that Butch was responsible for the death of his people, and he managed to track Butch down, and he had planned to kill him on the train. That's when the lawyer comes in and kind of interrupts it and takes the gun away, and he's like, even though he's a bad guy, you're locked up too, and I can't let you kill him. He's got to go in for trial, and we're going to have justice, not just execution. So Tonto's kind of pissed off at him that, you took my revenge away from me. Butch's gang ends up getting the drop on them, and Butch gets away, and they're chained up together. They get off the train. That's the whole part of the scene from the trailer when they put their hands up and get caught on the thing and fly away. So then the lawyer's brother shows up, who's a Texas Ranger, and he agrees to let Tonto go, even though the lawyer says no, he's got to go in for trial. He was a prisoner too. He says, yeah, but he also just saved your life. Let him go. But I think they did take him in, and he was in the jail cell, but later on he escapes, and it's never really explained how he escaped, just that he got out. So then the Texas Rangers are going to go track down Butch, because they got a tip on where he went, and the ranger deputizes his brother, so they go out too. They get ambushed in a valley, and they all get killed, basically. Tonto shows up, which he was locked up, but he got out of the jail cell and followed them, and he finds them all dead, so he's burying them. And turns out the lawyer's still alive. Around that time, a white horse shows up, which is the Lone Ranger's horse Silver, but he's not called Silver until like the very end. And basically, Silver is a spirit horse, which they go into detail on what a spirit horse is throughout the movie. So basically, the spirit horse is going to bring one of them back to life to help Tonto complete his journey. And he keeps going to the lawyer, and Tonto goes, no, we should bring this one back. He's the better warrior, which is the Texas Ranger. And the horse keeps going back to the lawyer. So he goes, okay, I trust that you know what you're doing. And then, so they bring him back, and he becomes the Lone Ranger. In the old Lone Ranger series, I remember he wore this, like, powder blue, like, unitard-looking suit and a big white hat. And basically, the fancier dress clothes that he was wearing when he arrived on the train is what he's still wearing, and that kind of explains the more proper dress, I guess. As far as the white hat, he bought the hat when he got into town, and it was still new and not broken in. That's why it's big and white. The mask actually comes from his brother. His brother had on a vest, and he got shot twice in the abdomen, and where the bullets had ripped throughout the back, the vests that they wear have like belts to kind of tighten them around your waist, and where they went through the abdomen, they ripped through the back of the belt on the vest and created eye holes in this belt. So he pulled it off and said, this is the mask you will wear. So it's kind of like a symbol of his brother avenging his death type of thing. Tonto then explains that he thinks Butch is a Wendigo, and he was born a Wendigo from tainted silver that they found in a mine, and the only way to kill him is with silver. So he melts down some of the other Texas Ranger badges, which are made of silver, and crafts them into silver bullets. So they go after them, and then it's basically just them tracking down Butch and his gang. I'm not going to go into the whole thing because it's kind of long, and I'm trying to keep these short, just so it doesn't take me as long to edit them and get them online. So they basically track down Butch and everything, and they find out that, Butch is actually the brother of the guy who's in charge of building the railroad, and that he's trying to intentionally cause a war with the Indians to break the treaty so that they get kicked off their land, because somewhere on their land is a silver mine, which is the one that Tonto thinks had the tainted silver that turned them into Wendigos. They plan to use TNT to detonate something, and when the shipment of TNT comes in, he tells the railroad guy tells Butch he tells one of his other underlings to hide it someplace safe, which they hide it in the safe at the bank. So when it finally comes around that when Tonto and the Lone Ranger rob the bank, they're actually breaking in to steal the dynamite, which they later use to blow up a bridge. Yeah, then it's basically just them squaring off with the two brothers, and of course, the Lone Ranger and Tonto win. And then as they're riding away, or the mayor of the town calls the Lone Ranger up on the stage towards the end, and he's like, "You've done us a great justice. Now it's time to take off the mask and reveal who you are." And he says, "And for your service, here's a gold watch." And he opens it up, looks at the watch, closes it, and says, "I think I'll keep my mask for a while. There's more work for me to do." And then the mayor opens up the box, and it's filled with birdseed. Basically, Tonto was doing this thing throughout the movie where he would take things from a dead body, and if it was something that he felt was of value, and in return he would leave trinkets like a feather or some seed or something like that. So he took the gold watch out of the box and had left birdseed. Oh, throughout the movie, the reason he has birdseed is because throughout the movie his headdress is this dead crow, and he keeps feeding it birdseed, which is odd. He explains why he does it, but it's just really weird. So then they meet up outside of town, and the Lone Ranger kind of questions about taking the watch. He's like, "Who would trade a watch for birdseed?" And he kind of says, "Well, a bird can't tell time, so what would he need with a watch?" So that's kind of his justification for the swap. So then as they're riding off, the Lone Ranger says that he thinks he's going to name the horse Silver, and because of the whole silver mine thing that started their whole journey together. And Tonto says, "I think that's a fitting name." During the last part of the battle, they actually kicked into the William Tell Overture, which is the old Lone Ranger theme song. So right around the time that hit, I was actually like, yeah, they finally threw it in. That's kind of cool, throwback to the original. Then as they're riding off, after he named the horse Silver, I was like, I wonder if they're going to do the other thing. And, they kind of start to roll the credits, and it's not happening. Then it cuts back, and the Lone Ranger actually does the hi-ho Silver away thing. And then it cuts to Tonto, and he goes, "Don't ever do that again." And then that's kind of that whole bit, which was kind of funny because it came out of nowhere. You knew he was going to do the hi-ho Silver away thing, but just Johnny Depp's reaction to it, like, it really startled him, and he's like, "That was really weird, don't do it again," type of thing. Just his delivery of it actually made me laugh, so that was pretty good. Spoiler, sorry. Then it cuts back to the kid in the wax museum, and he's throughout the thing, Tonto's kind of packing all his stuff into this briefcase and putting on a suit. So then the little kid says, "It's getting kind of late. I should probably get going home." And Tonto's like, "Yeah, we should." I forget what he said to him, but he made some comment to the boy about something, and then the little boy turns to walk away, and then he turns back, and Tonto's gone, but there's a bird there. And then the little boy walks outside and goes, "Never take off the mask," and puts the mask back on. And then we're back to credits, and then the credits roll for a few minutes, then it cuts back to Tonto walking off into the sunset, and that goes through the rest of the credits. The credits are kind of rolling over top of that, and then it just ends. A lot of people sit in the theater waiting for that to be over, like, oh, what's going to happen at the end of the credits? He's walking away, something's going to happen. No, he just walks off into the distance, and that's the end of it. And everyone's like, oh, that was kind of weird, why'd they do that? Anyway, so that's the Lone Ranger. As far as how it compares to the original Lone Ranger, like I said, it's been so long since I actually watched it. I didn't dislike the film, but at the same time, I've seen better films this year. Some people say that they don't like it because it doesn't live up to the original, but one guy that I work with actually refused to watch it because he was a big fan of the original and he thought it was going to be garbage. He didn't even give it a chance. So I'm not sure how it compares to the original. As far as, if you want to kill a couple hours and you're not a big fan of the Lone Ranger, go check it out. I mean, it's a decent enough action film, action comedy, I should say. Quick and easy way to kill an hour and a half or 2 hours, whatever it was. Other than that, maybe check it out when it comes out on DVD or rental or whatever. Yeah, as far as the star rating goes for Lone Ranger, I'd give it about a 3. You know, it's well, no, let's do a 3.5. It's middle of the road, but it had some good action scenes in it. It had some comedy in it. Like I said, I'm not comparing it to the original, otherwise it'd probably be more of a 3. But for right now, yeah, we'll just do a 3.5. It's a decent enough film. Check it out when it comes out. Or if it's still in theaters around you, check it out. Anyway, that's it for this one. Not sure what I'm going to get around to seeing next. I think I have a morning shift in a couple days, so I'll probably see something then. Not sure what yet. I think we got some new stuff opening up pretty soon. So yeah, anyway, that's it for this one. I'll be back eventually with something. Until then, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the movies.